Everybody, so today I'm going back to my origins, which is doing mixed media. Before I show you the rest of my videos, this is my warm-up, more or less. So I usually have a very, it's mixed media paper, but it's very flimsy and just inexpensive. I think I get it from Michael's. I'm not sure. It was one of those 2-for-1 things. And I doodle in that and I come up with, something. So I have to do this in order to just get the juices flowing again. I do doodle and do other things, and sometimes they come out really, really nice. I had some things I've done that were just spur of the moment, sitting there doing my watching a movie or something at night, and I have my watercolors going, and it usually takes me a little while to get back into the swing of things, and sometimes they are just not worth it. And so basically what I'm here to say is that you have to try to practice. It doesn't matter what they turn out to be. I try to do videos to inspire people to try different things, and because I have difficulty staying focused, I do so many different things. And yes, it's hard to get it right. I'm not a professional. I wanted to be an art teacher when I was going for my teaching degree, and I looked all into it, and it really didn't work out very well because this is the time, okay, and the way I was raised. I didn't know who to ask. No one ever thought I would go to college. Actually, I was raised, my father was never concerned him. It was, was secondary. I was a girl. I was going to get married. Somebody was going to take care of me. Exactly. And so none of that gave anybody. I remember, let me tell you, there was one time when my dad was a handyman, and he worked for some rather wealthy people, and because he was, the summertime, I was the only child, and I had to go with him. Oh my God, those are stories I could tell you about that. Go to him when he went to work, and he went to work at this one place. People were wealthy, and I got to go swimming with their young person, their child, and that person, we're in the pool, and there's a big story that goes beyond that, my mom and him my mom left and took me with her, and then the school was looking for me, and I was truant, so big, lots of stuff, okay? So then it was summer, right? So we already got out of school, and she says to me, "What kind of grades do you get?" And I'm thinking, and I can only remember, because there was never any real thought about, no one ever said anything about my grades. Nobody ever, it wasn't a big deal to my family. I mean, my family, my mom and dad never even came to, I went to a Catholic school, and they used to put on these St. Patty's Day performances in the evening for the parents. And they never even went to those. I remember walking up the street, having to go to the school on my own at night, because no one was coming with me. My dad was working. I don't know where my mom was. So it's like, yeah, there's issues. So anyway, I remembered the last thing I had, and I think it was a C, and I said that. And I think C's were 70s back then. And she's like, Oh, really? And then she talked about her grades. She had all A's, of course, and she was going to college. And I mean, we were in 7th grade. Good grief. So there wasn't much thought into what I was going to do. And so when I went to college in my 30s, and it was a community college. Eventually, I got enough stuff so that I could start taking regular classes in the regular college, and I ended up looking at, it was a teaching, it would be for teaching you how to be a teacher, and there was a pamphlet about being an art teacher, but not much. So when I finally got a hold of someone, and I said I wanted to be an art teacher, and their thing was, they're the first ones to go. And this is back in the day, okay? Now I'm retired, so it goes to show you that, those things were getting cut down then. So the thought was, if I went into being a recreation therapist, and that is someone who helps with recovery of different things. So, for example, people in nursing homes, there's usually someone who's a recreation therapist in there. Now, where I am now presently, there wasn't much thought about the college people that went into this. But back in the East Coast, it was a big deal. Nursing homes, hospitals where people may have drug problems or alcoholism, that trying to get people to do positive things in their life and using recreation, because you do work, let's say 10 hours a day you work, but then there's 24 hours in a day, 8 hours might be sleeping, so you have 18, you have 7 hours left or 6 hours left what do you do with that? And so if it's not a positive thing, if it's something where you're doing negative stuff, and you're trying to become healthier, what do you do? And so that's what the training was. The training was to teach you that as a recreation therapist. I did become a certified therapeutic recreation specialist, which is a really technical, they actually call them CTRS, and you have to take a big test, a national test, and there's dues and all this other stuff, and it's supposed to be a big deal. At least when I was doing it, it was. And specifically, I focused in on special education because I was trying to get into the education system and how they use that. One of the things that I did when I did my training is I went into a lockdown facility for teenagers. They have emotional disabilities or whatever, for whatever reason, they're in there, and trying to help them carve out a more positive lifestyle. I ended up working for a group in the place that I was in New York. It was in Westchester County, and they had a place that they called it Northwest, and it was a place where kids with attention deficit or physical or mental disabilities, that we had our staff, we were funded by the different townships within the county. Westchester's a pretty big county, and we were funded by them, by their recreation place, and we had a building. I don't even know if it's still around. Probably is. You probably could search for Northwest Special Recreation and find it. Really a great, I mean, it was it was the best. There's only one other position I had where it was really great, that I loved it so much. I'm sorry that I didn't stay. And so anyway, so in that position, you had to figure out things that were going to help help students, help children be able to interact positively with other people. So maybe they are working with each other, or they're having difficulty sharing things. So one of the things I did was in the afternoons, on Saturday afternoons, we had, first they would go swimming, and then in the afternoons we had a special place where we would go and do something. And my plan was to have teach them how to do short-lived activities and move on and do another activity and move on. So it was all timed. It was all presented in a way that they would adjust to it. They understood the rules. See, those are the things you had to know. You had to know the disability. You had to understand the child, because even if a child has the same disability, you respond to them differently. And in some cases, all you have to do is sit here until the timer goes off. That was great. And if the kids sat there, that's all we dealt with. And so they would have a different activity. Maybe they played Uno at one session. In another session, maybe they did artwork, or in another session. And each one had an adult. And I say adult, but most often than not, it was college kids that were going into the field. Maybe they were going to be a teacher or a psychologist or something to that effect. So that's how I ended up where I ended up, because that became the focus, rather than, because it was a way that I could put my art into it. I did go to a nursing home when I was training, and there was an art therapist there, and she worked with a gentleman. One gentleman was a quadriplegic, and she would have to look through a screen, a clear screen that had whatever, letters or colors or something, and she would look through it at him, and he would gaze his eyes at whatever letters, if he wanted to spell something, or the colors that he wanted, because she was doing painting with him. And the paintbrush would go into his mouth, and he would she put the canvas in a position for him and look through this screen and what color do you want? And he would gaze at what color he wanted. She'd put it on the paintbrush, put it in his mouth, and he would go to it. And to me it was like, oh my God, that is like the best. And it was really fascinating. But those jobs are far and few between, because just like with teachers in a school setting, they get rid of the activity people and they hire hourly. People that have the college education and the background knowledge to understand disabilities and how to facilitate patients, residents, children to complete a project, and what is the benefits for that. It's really hard. I know that it sounds ridiculous, oh, what do you like an hourly wage, so what? But the background, you pay a doctor to have the background knowledge, the understanding of diseases, the ability to be a surgeon, to diagnose you, and to be accurate. Well, it's funny how with things like education and rehabilitation, Why is it a problem for people to pay for other people that have that knowledge? I mean, they're willing to, oh, is that what you're doing? Okay, so what? You're just having them color in a coloring book. So we'll get an activity person in here. We'll call them an assistant and then get rid of the rec person. And I remember I had to learn how to do what's called SOAP notes. SOAP notes are something that you do in healthcare, and it's sort of it's very specific in how you evaluate what's going on with a patient or a resident or student. And the same is true in schools. I ended up actually, once I figured out I could actually go to school and actually do something, I started wanting to learn more. So after I got my rec therapist position done, I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more focused in the classroom. And I went for my special education certification, and eventually, now I had already had done I graduated from the college, got my certification, my CTRS. I was working. Then I wanted the teaching degree, and so I had to go to a university, and I got a special education in learning disabilities and emotional disabilities, and I became a teacher. I got certified in the state of New York, and then I had to move out to Arizona. I worked for a really great school. It's a private school, very, very interesting part of learning how to become a teacher and how to be kind. And so, although I didn't get to do as many art stuff with the kids in that position, it did set me up for when I moved out to Arizona and got my certification out there. And I came out to Arizona and just I missed the kids that were at the recreation facility, and that was so much fun working with those guys, because you're working on different kinds of projects, things that help them with their dexterity, their things like that. And so I decided, one of the things I enjoyed was learning how to communicate in sign language. And because my students, or the kids back there in New York, were multiply disabled, the sign language that I learned was very rudimentary. So my sign language skills were, basic, very basic. And I think I had 1 year of sign language then, and it worked because some of my guys were autistic, some of them were deaf and multiply handicapped. So it really didn't need for me to have a really solid understanding of ASL. But when I came out to Arizona, I was looking for something. I had wanted, when I was in New York, I had wanted to be working with kids that had autism, and I was looking at a training center that was in North Carolina, I think it was. It's been a long time, so I can't really tell you exactly where it was, because it's been, over 20 years. So anyway, when I came out to Arizona, now we're in a new state, new stuff, I had to rethink what I was doing, because I was having such a hard time finding a position here in Arizona. And it was funny, because you would read in the paper about how there was a shortage of special ed teachers, and that Arizona needed, all these teaching positions. And the funny thing was, before I came out here, I did my due diligence. I made sure that I had everything set up so that I would be certified when I hit the ground. So I was prepared. I was ready to go. But it was just before using the internet was useful or predominant. And so you would be able to search, and would only be maybe a few places. I'd go through the newspapers. That was a time when you had to go get the newspaper and look it up. And you might be able to find something, but there was very limited information on the computer, on the internet. Now you could search and find tons of stuff. You could do your application, you renew your stuff, everything is right there. But back in the day, it was like, it was hard, because I would have to go to the districts, and being new in the area, trying to find where, all right, if I try this place, where is that? And we hadn't quite bought a house yet, so I didn't know what part of town we were going to be in. So I started off subbing. And the difficulty with subbing was, for some reason, every time I'd go in to sub, I'd go in for 3 days to sub for somebody who was out sick. And then I'd end up getting sick. So it would be like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then I was sick, and I'd be sick for a week. It was horrible. And in between trying to find a house, and it was just horrendous. It's possible I could have had some sort of virus that just, I don't know. You get sick when you come out to Arizona. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that's the story behind my wanting to be an art teacher. And so that's not exactly what I'm presenting here, but I'm just saying that you've got to try. And I've morphed and changed, and sometimes I'll do different things in my drawings. And what can I tell you? It's now I'm fighting with a pen because I didn't quite wait for it to dry. And here's the thing. I found that if I let it dry, whatever it is I've colored with, let it dry completely, usually the next day, I can go over it with an ink pen or a felt tip pen, and it works out just fine. This one I'm struggling with these pens, and it doesn't matter. I like having the background with squigglies. So this is my intro to Halloween. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I said, I have to do a little practice run with the drawing, and I'm not really great at drawing bodies, so I'm trying to up that one, but it's not working for me. I just figured, all right, well, we usually do Halloween around this time. I mean, you'll see a lot of stuff for Halloween because we all get you have to start doing, I do craft fairs. If you watch my channel, you know I put stuff up for craft fairs. I do a lot of craft fairs, and so right around this time, I'm really gearing up for the Halloween section. And this is why this in particular is coming through, because I need something. I have a few things I've done for Christmas. I was a Christmas baby, and so Christmas was a big deal in my house when I had my kids. Not that Christmas was a big deal when I was little, but Christmas was a big deal for me. And then eventually Halloween became the big deal because that had a different color palette. And it was fun, and we did things as a family, me and my boys, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Became very, very happy to do that. So, soon this will be over and you will be able to mull about, do your thing. I've been able to do this upload because I'm in the house by myself. It's really hard for me to talk to the video. It's pretty much what I'm doing, to talk to the video when other people are in the house. So it's embarrassing, and I haven't quite gotten over that yet. When I do, it'll be better, because I hate, I just get in the mood, and I hate having to go and say, I'm going to do a video, be quiet. I just want to do it and be done with it. And that's pretty much what's happening here. So, this is it, my startup for my little friend here. And eventually, I'm going to do a few more. I have some craft fairs coming up because getting back into that. And I'll be doing that. If there's any questions you have about things that I put out onto the YouTube channel, please put them in the bottom there where it says, comments. If you enjoyed my story or you enjoyed watching, can you just give me a like? Let me know everything's going the way it should. And if you didn't, that's fine too. You can do a dislike. It'll teach me what's good and what isn't. And I hope that you'll come for the next one, because I'm going to be doing a much larger piece, and hopefully I'll have gotten back into the swing of things. You'll see with the next one, my poor little girl doesn't look quite as cute as I think this one does, unfortunately. So there it is. And obviously, if you ever have any questions about materials that I use, leave me a comment and I will respond as soon as I can. If I don't respond, it may be because it's a very old video, and that's the only reason why I wouldn't notice it. And life is tough, and so you go on. Well, enjoy the rest of the video. I'm going to be doing a little bit more highlighting. It's almost over, and I hope I didn't bore you too much. I was trying to think of what to do, because like I said, I'm not teaching. I'm not a teacher in that sense, where, except for the fact that I tell you, just keep trying. Don't give up. Just do it, and just put on the side. I have so many books that I doodle in, and then I'll look back at them and things, oh wow, that looks pretty good, and then I'll go back and I'll add to it. So, and hopefully I will see you the next time. Ta-ta for now.